Captain stood on the bridge of the Horizon's Promise, staring at the massive alien ship floating before them. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The vessel was 3 times the size of any human ship, with surfaces that seemed to shift and glow with inner light. Energy danced across its hull in patterns that hurt to look at for too long. "They're responding to our hail, Captain," said Lieutenant from the communication station. Her voice was steady, but could hear the tension underneath. "Put them on screen," ordered. The flickered and a face appeared. The looked almost human, but not quite. Their skin had a faint silver shimmer, and their eyes were too large, too knowing. The being wore robes that seemed to be made of liquid starlight. "I am captain of the human vessel Horizon's Promise. We come in peace, seeking friendship between our peoples." The smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I am High Chancellor of the Empire. How quaint that you have finally achieved faster-than-light travel. We have been watching your species for some time. You are interesting." Dr. Park stepped forward from her position at the science station. She had studied first contact protocols for 20 years, preparing for this moment. "We are honored to meet you. We have much to learn from each other." The smile grew wider. "Learn? Yes, you have much to learn. We have been traveling the stars for 200,000 of your years. We have mastered sciences you cannot yet imagine. But do not worry. Soon you will understand your place in our empire." Felt a chill run down his spine. "Our place? We're not seeking to join an empire. We're seeking partnership, mutual respect between equals." "Equals?" laughed, and it sounded like wind chimes made of ice. "Captain, you are not our equals. You are children playing with toys you barely understand, but we are generous. We offer you the chance to join the empire as a client species. You will work for us, provide resources, and in return, we will protect you from the dangers of the galaxy." His face went pale. She had read about this in ancient Earth history. This wasn't first contact. This was conquest dressed in diplomatic words. "And if we refuse?" asked, though he already knew he wouldn't like the answer. "Refuse?" seemed genuinely puzzled. "Why would you refuse? We offer you safety, protection, and the privilege of serving the greatest civilization in the galaxy. But if you are foolish enough to say no," the paused and his eyes went cold, "then you will face the consequences of your defiance. We have dealt with defiance before, Captain. It never ends well for those who choose that path." The transmission ended abruptly, stood in silence for a moment, then turned to his crew. "Get me Admiral on Earth, now." 3 weeks later, Ambassador Ahan sat in a conference room aboard a station. Around her, 17 other species sat in similar chairs. All of them wore expressions that ranged from defeat to resignation. She had tried to speak with them, but they all gave the same answer. "Don't fight, just accept. It's easier this way." They had shown her their empire. It was vast beyond imagination, spanning thousands of star systems. But something was wrong. Every species she met seemed broken, defeated. They worked, they lived, but there was no joy, no freedom. "Ambassador Han," an official said, floating into the room on a platform of pure energy. "Have you made your decision? Will humanity accept our generous offer?" Ah had spent her entire career negotiating treaties and agreements. She knew how to read people, how to find compromise, but there was no compromise here. "Your offer is slavery dressed in pretty words. We request better terms. True partnership, not servitude." They laughed. Every alien in the room flinched at the sound. "Better terms? You have nothing we need except your obedience. You will work, you will serve, and you will be grateful. These are not negotiations, Ambassador. This is reality." Back on Earth, Admiral Wu Jin stood in the war room, looking at reports from across human space. His hair had gone gray over 30 years of service, and his eyes had seen too many battles, but nothing had prepared him for this. "Sir, we have a problem," his aide said, bringing up a holographic display. "One of our research stations at the edge of the sector just went dark. 300 people, including families. Dark equipment failure. No, sir. Our long-range sensors picked up a ship in the area just before we lost contact. We sent a probe. The station is gone, completely vaporized. There's not even debris left. Felt his blood turn to ice. They attacked us. A message appeared on the main screen. It was from High Chancellor. Greetings, humanity. That was a small demonstration of our power. You have one of your months to accept our terms. Join the Empire willingly, or we will take what we want from the ashes of your civilization. The choice is yours. Choose wisely. On the frontier colony of New Haven stood in her office, looking out at the settlement she had helped build. 3,000 people called this place home. They had farms, schools, and families. They had built something beautiful here, far from Earth. Her assistant rushed in, his face white with fear. Administrator, have you seen the news? The destroyed Station 7. They're giving us a month to surrender. Turned from the window. She was only 30 years old, too young for the weight that had just fallen on her shoulders. I've seen it. Call a town meeting. Tonight. Everyone needs to hear what's happening. That night the town square was packed. People stood shoulder to shoulder, their faces lit by the glow of portable lights, stood on a small platform and told them everything. She didn't hide the truth. She didn't soften the blow. So what do? Someone shouted from the crowd. I don't know, admitted. Earth will decide our answer, but I want you all to know something. Our ancestors left Earth because they believed in freedom. They traveled across the stars to build new homes, new lives. Whatever happens, whatever Earth decides, I'm proud of what we've built here. The crowd was silent for a moment. Then an old farmer spoke up. My grandfather told me stories about Earth's old wars. He said that the human spirit never breaks. It bends, but it never breaks. These don't know us yet. Maybe it's time they learned what humans are really made of. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Felt something stir in her chest. It was fear, yes, but something else too. It was defiance. It was the same fire that had driven humanity to survive ice ages, plagues, and world wars. The same fire that had taken them to the stars. They had ruled for 200,000 years. They had forgotten that power without challenge breeds weakness. They had forgotten what it meant to truly fight for survival. They were about to remember. The countdown had begun. The emergency council met in a bunker 3 kilometers beneath Geneva. President Jinho Lee looked around the table at the faces of humanity's leaders. Some looked angry. Some looked terrified. All of them looked to him for an answer he didn't have. Let's hear it straight, Jinho said. Admiral, what are our chances if we fight? Admiral Wu Jin pulled up a holographic display. Red dots represented forces. Blue dots represented human ships. There was a lot more red than blue. Honestly, sir, we lose. Their technology is 50 to 100 years ahead of ours. Their shields can withstand nuclear weapons. Their energy weapons cut through our best armor like paper. In a straight fight, they would destroy our entire fleet in a matter of days. So we surrender, General Song asked. She was younger then, but her record in the Mars Rebellion had earned her a seat at this table. We just give up and become slaves. I didn't say that, replied. I said we would lose in a straight fight, but who says we have to fight straight? Dr. Park stood up. She had returned from the station 3 days ago and hadn't slept since. I spent weeks with them. I studied them. They're powerful, yes, but they've grown soft. They haven't faced real opposition in 50,000 years. Every species they've conquered just rolled over and accepted their fate. They expect us to do the same. What are you suggesting? Jinho asked. I'm suggesting they don't know how to fight a real war anymore, said. They know how to demonstrate power and crush resistance, but actual prolonged conflict, strategy, adaptation, they've forgotten how to do that. A man in civilian clothes spoke up. Engineer had been brought in from the Advanced Weapons Division. He looked tired and disheveled, like he always did when he was working on something important. I've been analyzing their technology from the sensor data. Their shields are impressive, but they work on quantum field principles. I think I can build something that disrupts those fields." "How long?" General asked. "4 weeks, maybe 5. I'd need unlimited resources and a team working around the clock." "You'll have it," Jinho said. "What else?" "We need to fight smart," said, leaning forward. "We can't match their fleet head-on, but we don't have to. We know our own space better than they do. We can use that, hit and run attacks, guerrilla warfare, make them bleed for every inch." A voice spoke from the back of the room. "That's easy for you to say from Earth. What about those of us on the frontier?" Everyone turned. Han had come to represent the colony worlds. She wasn't military or government. She was a union organizer who had spent her life fighting for workers' rights on Mars. "I've been getting messages from every colony. People are scared. Some want to fight. Some want to surrender. But they all want to know that Earth hasn't forgotten them." "We haven't," Jinho said firmly. "Whatever we decide together." "Then let me tell you what the colonies think," said, her voice growing stronger. "Our ancestors didn't survive ice ages by being weak. They didn't survive plagues by giving up. They didn't survive world wars by surrendering to tyrants. They survived by being too damn stubborn to die. That's what makes us human. That's what these don't understand." The room fell silent. Jinho looked around at all the faces. "We need to vote. But before we do, I want everyone to understand what we're choosing. If we say yes to the billions live, we lose our freedom but we survive. If we say no, millions will die. Maybe billions, our colonies will burn, our ships will be destroyed. We might lose everything. Or we might win," said quietly. "Or we might win," Jinho agreed. "So let's vote. Do we accept the terms or do we fight?" One by one hands rose. First, then more and more until every hand in the room was raised. "Then it's decided," Jinho said. "We fight. May whatever god you believe in help us all." On New Haven received the message from Earth at midnight. She read it 3 times, then walked outside. The colony's main street was empty in the darkness. Above, the stars shone cold and distant. She activated the colony-wide broadcast system. All across New Haven, lights flickered on in homes and buildings. People stumbled out of bed, wondering what was happening. "This is Administrator," she said, her voice echoing through every speaker. "I just received word from Earth. They've made their decision about the ultimatum. We're going to fight. That means we're going to be on the front lines. New Haven is the furthest colony from Earth. We'll probably be their first target." She paused, gathering her courage. "I won't lie to you. Many of us might die. They have weapons we can barely imagine. But Earth is sending help. Admiral is coordinating our defense. If we're going to go down, we're going to go down fighting." For a moment there was only silence. Then someone started clapping, then another person, then more. Soon the entire colony was applauding and some were cheering. Felt tears running down her face. These people were crazy. They were beautiful and crazy and human. The next 3 weeks were chaos. Engineer didn't sleep. He barely ate. His team worked day and night in underground labs building weapons that shouldn't exist. They called them quantum disruption torpedoes, but just called them shield breakers. General turned New Haven into a fortress. She brought in every mine, every missile, every weapon humanity had. She hid ships in the asteroid field. She turned the colony's underground tunnels into a maze of defensive positions. Admiral coordinated everything from Earth. He sent his best people to the frontier. He pulled ships from every fleet. He knew it wasn't enough, but he sent them anyway. Doctor worked with intelligence services, analyzing every piece of data they had on them. She built profiles, predicted their tactics, and searched for any weakness they could exploit. President Jinho broadcast a message to all of humanity. "We are outmatched. The smart move would be to surrender, but humans have never been very smart when it comes to freedom. We'd rather die free than live as slaves. So I have one message. Come and take it." The message went out across the galaxy. The received it. So did the 17 client species. In the capital worlds of the Empire, the other subject races heard humanity's defiance and felt something they hadn't felt in generations. Hope. The deadline came. High Chancellor appeared on every human screen. You have chosen death over wisdom. Very well. Your species will be made an example of. Your worlds will be cleansed. Your name will become a cautionary tale that others will remember for. The Empire does not tolerate defiance. The transmission ended. On New Haven stood with her people and watched the sky. Long-range sensors picked up the fleet first. 20 warships, each one capable of destroying a planet. Here they come, someone whispered. Took a deep breath. Remember, we're not trying to win. We're trying to make them hurt. We're trying to show them that humans don't break easily. Whatever happens, make them remember us. The fleet entered orbit. Their ships glowed with barely contained power. They had come to deliver judgment on an upstart species that didn't know its place. They had no idea what was waiting for them. Commander Jun watched the fleet from the cockpit of the Ghost Wolf. His stealth destroyer floated in the shadow of an asteroid, invisible to their sensors. He had 13 other ships with him, all hidden, all waiting. They're not even raising their shields to full power, Lieutenant said from the tactical station. She sounded insulted. They think this will be easy. Let them think that, Jun replied. His brother Yang had told him about how arrogant they were, how certain of their superiority. That arrogance was about to cost them. On New Haven's surface, stood in the underground command center with General Song. The general had arrived 2 weeks ago and hadn't stopped working since. The entire colony was now one giant trap. They're broadcasting, a technician said. The main screen showed High Chancellor. Humans of New Haven, you are being given one final chance to surrender. Lay down your weapons and accept Imperial rule. You have 5 minutes to comply. General didn't even blink. Let them wait. 5 minutes passed in silence, then 10, then 15. They're getting impatient, the technician reported. Their lead ship is powering weapons. Good, said. Let them make the first move. Let the galaxy see who the aggressors are. The ship fired. A beam of pure energy lanced down from orbit, striking the main colony building. The structure exploded in a ball of fire. 200 people had been inside but had evacuated it 3 days ago. The building was empty except for sensors and cameras. They just killed an empty building, said quietly, but they don't know that. Now they think we're helpless, said. That's when we hit them. All batteries open fire. Hidden weapons arrays all across New Haven erupted. Missiles streaked into the sky by the hundreds. Nuclear mines that had been floating in orbit, disguised as debris, detonated around the ships. Kinetic kill vehicles, simple chunks of metal accelerated to a fraction of light speed, slammed into their hulls. The shields held. They absorbed the nuclear blasts, deflected the kinetic rounds, and destroyed most of the missiles. But most wasn't all. A few missiles got through, scarring the pristine hulls. Alarms began to sound on bridges. What? Stared at his displays in disbelief. How dare they destroy that planet, wipe it clean? But before they could respond, Commander Jun made his move. All ships attack now, getting close before they can adapt. The Ghost Wolf and her sister ships burst from the asteroid field at maximum speed. They carried engineers' quantum disruption torpedoes, the weapons that had been built in 3 weeks of desperate work. Torpedoes away, Jun shouted. The weapons struck 3 cruisers. For a moment nothing happened. Then the shields flickered and died. The quantum fields that powered them simply collapsed. The cruisers were suddenly naked, exposed. Conventional weapons fire everything, Jun ordered. Nuclear missiles slammed into unshielded hulls. The ships had armor, but it wasn't designed to take this kind of punishment without shields. The first cruiser exploded in a brilliant flash. The second broke apart, spilling atmosphere and crew into space. The third managed to activate emergency barriers, but half its hull was already gone. On the flagship stood frozen. This was impossible. The shields were perfect. They had never failed, never. "High Chancellor, we need to retreat," his second-in-command shouted. "We need to analyze what happened." "Retreat," his voice was shrill. "We don't retreat. The Empire does not run from primitives." But his fleet was already breaking formation. Thousands of years of military tradition said to conserve forces, to study the enemy, to adapt. They had forgotten how to take losses. They had forgotten how to fight through pain. A young pilot named Min saw his opening. His fighter was damaged, shields failing, weapons almost empty. He had maybe 2 minutes before his ship fell apart, but in front of him he could see a massive carrier. Its hangar bay was open, launching more fighters. "This is Min to command," he said calmly. "I'm making a final run. Tell my mom I'm sorry about missing dinner." "No," Jun shouted. "Pull back, that's an order." But was already moving. He pushed his dying fighter to maximum speed, straight toward the carrier. Point Defense tried to stop him, but he was too small, too fast, moving too erratically. He slipped through their fire like water through fingers. At the last second, he activated his ship's self-destruct and aimed for the open hangar bay. His fighter shot through the opening and exploded inside the carrier. The blast triggered the carrier's own munition stores. Secondary explosions ripped through the massive ship. Within seconds, it was breaking apart. Min never felt it. He died instantly, with a smile on his face. The fleet broke. They had never seen anything like this. They had lost 4 capital ships to a species that shouldn't have been able to scratch their paint. High Chancellor ordered a full retreat, his hands shaking with shock and rage. As the ships fled, General stood in the command center, her face grim. "Get damage reports. How many did we lose?" The reports came in slowly. The colony's surface was devastated. They had managed to unleash their fury before retreating, and their weapons were terrifyingly effective. 40,000 people were dead. Was among them killed when a beam weapon struck the civilian shelter where she was helping evacuate children. "She died a hero," someone said quietly. "They all did," replied. "But we need to evacuate the survivors. They will be back, and next time they'll bring everything they have." Commander Jun docked with the evacuation ships, his face gray with exhaustion. He had lost half his squadron. Min's sacrifice had saved hundreds, maybe thousands, but the cost was brutal. "Sir, we're receiving transmissions from Earth," Lieutenant said. "They want to know if we won." Jun laughed, and it sounded like broken glass. "Won? We survived. We bloodied their nose, but that's not winning. That's just making them angry." The news spread across human space within hours. Humanity had fought the Empire and lived. No 4 of their ships were destroyed. A carrier, 3 cruisers, and hundreds of smaller vessels damaged. It was impossible. It was miraculous. It was just the beginning. In space, the other client species watched the broadcasts in secret. They saw humans standing against the Empire. They saw ships retreating. And they saw something else. The Empire could bleed. On Earth, President Jinho addressed a grieving planet. "We lost 40,000 souls at New Haven. They are martyrs now, names we will remember forever, but they gave us something precious. They gave us hope. They proved we can fight back. The thought this would be easy. They were wrong." He paused, his voice growing harder. "But let's be clear about something. This wasn't a victory. This was a skirmish. The real war is just beginning. They will come back with everything they have. More ships, better tactics, and a burning desire for revenge. The easy part is over. Now comes the hard part." Admiral stood in the war room looking at the strategic displays. New Haven was abandoned now, its survivors scattered across other colonies. They were regrouping, analyzing what had happened, preparing their counterattack. "How long until they come back?" an aide asked. "Weeks," said. "Maybe a month if we're lucky. They'll want to be sure next time. They'll want to crush us completely. Can we stop them? Was quiet for a long moment. No, not if they come at us with their full strength, but we can make them pay for every inch. We can make this so painful, so expensive, that they'll start to question if it's worth it. And if they decide it is worth it, then we all die, said simply. But we die free. And maybe, just maybe, we inspire others to fight. They have ruled for 200,000 years, but empires don't last forever. Every empire falls eventually. Maybe we're the beginning of their fall. In the darkness of space, the fleet gathered. High Chancellor stood aboard his flagship, staring at the tactical displays. His perfect record was broken. His invincible fleet had retreated. The client species were whispering, watching, waiting. "Ready the Grand Armada," he ordered. "Bring every ship. We will erase humanity from existence. We will burn their worlds to ash, and the galaxy will remember what happens to those who defy us." The war had begun in blood. It would continue in fire. 5 years. That's how long the war had been raging. 5 years of blood, fire, and endless death. Admiral Wu Jin looked older now, his face lined with exhaustion. He stood in the war room on Mars, which had become humanity's military headquarters after Earth was attacked. "What's the count?" he asked, already knowing he wouldn't like the answer. 37 colonies lost, his aide reported. 12 billion civilian casualties. Military losses at 60% of original strength. We're running out of ships faster than we can build them. And they've lost approximately 400 capital ships, thousands of smaller vessels, and their supply lines are stretched thin. But they keep coming. Nodded slowly. By all logic, humanity should have been extinct 3 years ago. They had superior technology, more ships, and an empire spanning thousands of systems. But humans were still fighting, still surviving, still refusing to die. Dr. Ho Park entered the room carrying a data pad. He was brought in to study captured prisoners. "Admiral, I think I've figured out why they haven't won yet." "Tell me something good, Doctor. I could use good news." "They have been dominant for so long that they've forgotten how to really fight," Ho said. "They're tactically brilliant. Their weapons are incredible, but strategically, they're terrible. They expect every battle to be won quickly. When it's not, they get confused. They don't know how to adapt to prolonged conflict." "Can we use that?" "We already are," Ho said. "Every time we lose a colony, we leave behind resistant cells. Every time we retreat, we destroy infrastructure they need. We're bleeding them slowly, making them pay for every mile. It's working. Their economy is straining. Their client species are getting restless. The empire is creaking." General Song walked in, fresh from the field. She had been coordinating guerrilla operations across a dozen systems. "They hit the colony at yesterday. We evacuated 90% of the population before they arrived. Left them a nice surprise in the underground tunnels." "Casualties?" asked. "There's 300 ground troops and 2 transport ships. Ours. 50 volunteers who stayed behind to fight. They took out the enemy commander before they died. They are getting paranoid. They're scanning everything now, triple-checking every building. It's slowing them down." Across the war room, Intelligence Officer Jin was reviewing intercepted communications. She had spent 3 years infiltrating networks and making contact with their client species. Now, she had something important. "Admiral, you need to see this," she said. "I've been in contact with representatives from 6 of the client species. They're offering to share intelligence with us." Walked over to her station. "Why would they help us?" "Because we're proving something they'd forgotten," Jin said. "That they can be hurt. That resistance is possible. The species called they have been under rule for 8,000 years. They just sent us the location of 3 major supply depots, the provided blueprints for communication networks. They want us to win." "Can we trust them?" "I think so. They're taking enormous risks. If the find out, entire populations could be executed. They're helping us because they're desperate for hope. Hope, such a human concept, but apparently it was contagious. Engineer was still working in his underground laboratory, though now he had a team of 1,000. His quantum disruption torpedoes had evolved. Now he had proximity mines that specifically targeted engines, missiles that could track their ships through hyperspace, drones that could hack their systems. The problem is resources, he told during a briefing. We're running out of rare earth elements that control most of the mining systems. We're having to raid their supply convoys just to keep building weapons. Then we raid more convoys, said simply. Operation Hornet's Nest continues. We hit them everywhere all at once, keep them off balance. Operation Hornet's Nest. It was masterpiece. Small, fast human ships striking deep into territory, hitting supply depots, communication stations, administrative centers, never staying long enough to be caught, always moving, always striking, always making the look over their shoulders. They had to defend everything now. They couldn't mass their forces for a killing blow because humanity might strike somewhere else. Their military was spread thin across their entire empire, trying to protect thousands of vulnerable points. But the cost to humanity was terrible. Every raid meant losses. Every battle meant more names added to the memorial walls. Cities on Earth now had entire districts dedicated to monuments. The names of the dead covered walls kilometers long. Commander Jun was captured during a raid on a fuel depot. He woke up in a white cell, his head pounding. An interrogator stood over him. Commander, we could have killed you, the interrogator said. Instead, we want to understand. Why do you fight? You cannot win. We will crush you eventually. Why throw away billions of lives for nothing? Jun looked at them with tired eyes. Because we'd rather die free than live as slaves. Because every day we fight is another day we're still human. You don't understand that, do you? You've been safe for so long that you've forgotten what it means to struggle. They tortured him for information. Jun told them nothing, not the location of human bases, not the names of other commanders, not even small details they could use. He endured 6 months of hell, sustained by one thought. He was making them waste time and resources on him. When human special forces finally rescued him, he could barely walk. But he smiled when he saw his brother Yang leading the rescue team. Took you long enough, he croaked. Had to make sure the party was ready, Yang replied, helping his brother to the ship. Behind them, the prison complex exploded. Another small victory in a war of small victories. Jun's rescue became a symbol. They couldn't even hold their prisoners. Human determination was stronger than power. The story spread through both human space and the Empire. Resistance cells on client worlds took heart. Slaves started thinking about freedom. On the Supreme Council met in emergency session. 5 years of war, and the primitives were still fighting. The economy was suffering. Resources were being diverted from exploration and science to military production. Client species were becoming problematic, requiring more military presence to keep them in line. We should just sterilize their planets and be done with it, one council member argued. Burn every human world to bedrock. We've tried that, another replied. They evacuate, they hide in asteroid bases, they keep fighting from their ships. We could spend a century hunting down every last human and the client species would see it. They'd see us as monsters. We can't afford that kind of instability. Then what do you propose? That we negotiate with them? The council fell silent. Negotiate with primitives. The very idea was shameful, but some council members were quietly thinking it. Not out loud, never out loud, but the thought was there. Back on Mars, Admiral looked at the latest casualty reports and felt the weight of every death. 15 billion humans had died in 5 years. Hundreds of colonies were gone, but humanity still existed, still fought, still refused to bow. Dr. Park entered his office late one night. She looked exhausted but determined. "Admiral, I've been studying every piece of intelligence we have on the. I think I know their weakness." "What is it?" Time said. "They're used to quick conquests, overwhelming force, rapid submission, then moving on. They don't know how to fight a long war. Their economy isn't built for it. Their society isn't prepared for it. Every year this continues, they get weaker, not in technology but in will." "How long can we last?" "Longer than they think," said. "We've adapted. We've learned to build ships faster, fight smarter, survive on less. We're getting better at war while they're getting worse at it. If we can hold out for another 5 years, maybe 10, their empire will start to fracture." "That's a lot of years," said quietly. "A lot of deaths." "Yes," agreed. "But it's the only path to freedom. The alternative is extinction or slavery. At least this way we're choosing our own fate." Nodded slowly. He thought about who died defending New Haven, about Min who flew into a carrier to save his comrades, about the 15 billion names on the memorial walls, about the billions still fighting, still hopping, still believing that tomorrow might bring victory. "Then we keep fighting," he said. "We hold the line, and we make them pay for every inch until they break." Outside, the war continued. Human ships struck positions. Fleets bombarded human worlds. The galaxy burned, and in that fire, something was changing. The unbeatable empire was learning what it meant to bleed. 10 years, a full decade since that first contact when they had smiled and offered slavery dressed as protection. President Jinho Lee stood in what was left of Geneva, looking at the ruins. Earth had been hit 3 times in the past decade. Billions dead. Entire continents, but humanity endured. "Mr. President," an aide said, "Admiral is requesting an emergency meeting." Jinho nodded and made his way to the bunker, the same room where they'd voted to fight 10 years ago. Some of the faces around the table were different now. Many of the original council members were dead. General Song was there, older and harder. Dr. Park, her hair now streaked with gray, and Admiral Wu Jin, who looked like he'd aged 30 years. "We have a problem," said without preamble. "Intelligence reports that the Empire is fracturing. 3 client species have openly rebelled. 2 more are close to it. The economy is in collapse. Their fleet is spread so thin they can barely patrol their own territory." "That sounds like good news," someone said. "It would be, except the Supreme Council has made a decision. They're going to throw everything they have left at us in one final assault. Every ship, every weapon, everything. They're going to try to end this war by destroying Earth and breaking our will." The room fell silent. Jinho felt his chest tighten. How long? 3 months, maybe less. They're gathering their forces now. "Can we stop them?" "No," said flatly. "They'll have 2,000 capital ships. We have maybe 300 that are combat-ready. We can hurt them, but we can't stop them." Engineer spoke up from his spot at the table. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept in weeks. "Unless we use the weapon." Everyone turned to look at him. "What weapon?" Jinho asked. "I've been working on something," said quietly. "Something terrible. You know how we captured consciousness transfer technology? The stuff they use to back up their minds. I've weaponized it. It's a virus that can infect their neural networks. It would corrupt their consciousness, destroy their ability to coordinate, maybe even kill them." "That's genocide," said, her face pale. "That's survival," replied. "We're out of options. We can deploy this virus directly into their network. It would cripple them completely, end the war in days." "And make us monsters," said quietly. "Make us no better than them." The debate raged for hours. Some argued for using the weapon. It would save billions of human lives. Others argued against it. Using it would make humanity into the very thing they were fighting against. Tyrants who destroyed entire species when they became inconvenient. Finally, Jinho held up his hand for silence. "We'll prepare the weapon, but we'll try something else first. We're going to hit there with everything we have. A conventional assault. If we can force them to negotiate, we do that. The virus is our last resort, and we only use it if we have no other choice. That's suicide, someone objected. There is the most heavily defended place in the galaxy. I know, Jinho said, but we're going to do it anyway, because that's what humans do. We try the impossible. The plan was called Operation Homecoming. Every human ship that could fly would converge on the. It was desperate. It was crazy. It would probably fail, but it was a chance. Captain Yang commanded the new flagship Defiance. His brother Jun served as his second. They'd lost so much over the years. Friends, family, entire worlds. But they were still here, still fighting. All ships report ready, Jun said. 317 capital ships, 800 cruisers, thousands of fighters, everything we have left. Then let's go remind them what humans are made of, Yang said. The fleet jumped into hyperspace, heading for the heart of the Empire. It would take 3 weeks to get there, 3 weeks to prepare for what might be humanity's last battle. On the High Chancellor received the reports with disbelief. The humans are attacking here. Are they insane? Apparently yes, High Chancellor, his aide replied. They're bringing their entire remaining fleet. Then we will destroy them, said. Every ship we have converge on the. This ends today. The human plague will be cleansed from the galaxy. The battle was apocalyptic. Human ships emerged from hyperspace and immediately engaged the defense fleet. The sky above them lit up with weapons fire. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes. The void filled with debris and bodies. Captain Yang pushed the Defiance through the enemy lines, taking hits, losing shields but pressing forward. All ships, focus fire on their command carriers. Take out their coordination. The humans fought with desperate courage. They knew they were dying. 60% casualties in the first hour, 70% in the second. Ships rammed vessels when they ran out of weapons. Fighters flew suicide runs into crucial targets. Every human fought like it was their last day alive, because for most of them it was. But they were breaking through. The defenses were designed for overwhelming force, not for enemies willing to die to achieve their goals. Human ships reached the planet's surface defenses. They deployed Engineer's virus delivery system, a small probe that crashed into the planet's communication hub. The virus spread through the network like wildfire. Command and control systems started failing. Ships went dark. Defense satellites shut down. The leadership's consciousness backups became corrupted. Their thoughts scrambled into nonsense. High Chancellor felt his mind fracturing. What is happening? On the Defiance, Yang watched the fleet go silent. Dead in space, systems failing, unable to fight. They were helpless, vulnerable. Sir, we can finish them, Jun said quietly. We can bombard the planet, end this. Yang looked at the planet below. Billions lived there. Innocent civilians who had nothing to do with their government's decisions. Children, families, people just trying to live their lives. He thought about who died protecting children. He thought about Min, who sacrificed himself to save others. He thought about what it meant to be human, not just to survive, but to be worthy of surviving. Cease fire, he ordered. All ships cease fire. Sir, Jun stared at him. Open a channel, all frequencies. I want everyone to hear this. The channel opened. Yang took a deep breath. This is Captain Yang of the Human Defense Fleet. We have the power to destroy your. We could kill every in existence right now, but we won't. He paused, letting his words sink in. We're not fighting to become monsters. We're fighting for the right to exist as free beings. So here's our offer. The war ends now. No more conquest. No more slavery. We'll help you repair your systems if you agree to real peace. Not submission, not domination. Real peace between equals. For a long moment there was only silence. Then a voice responded. It was shaky, uncertain. Why? We tried to destroy you. We killed billions of your people. Why would you show us mercy? Because someone has to break the cycle, Yang said. Because revenge isn't the same as justice. Because if we destroy you now, we become exactly what you were. And humanity didn't fight for 10 years just to become the next tyrants. Dr. Park was listening from Mars. Tears streamed down her face. That's it, she whispered. That's how we win, not by destroying them but by proving we're better. The response came slowly. Their Supreme Council was in chaos, their leadership compromised, their empire crumbling. But someone had to speak for them. A junior counselor, barely old enough to hold office, spoke up. We accept your terms, peace. Real peace, we are. We are tired of war. Across the galaxy, the news spread. Humanity had won, not through superior firepower but through mercy. The unthinkable had happened. The Empire, 200,000 years old, had surrendered to a species barely 3 centuries into space. The aftermath was complicated. The Empire dissolved. The client species gained their freedom. A new galactic council formed with humanity as a founding member. Not rulers, not conquerors, but partners. President Jinho stood at the dedication of the Memorial of the Fallen. 20 billion names were carved into walls that stretched for miles. We paid a terrible price for our freedom, he told the crowd. We lost friends, family, entire worlds, but we also learned something important. We learned that strength isn't just about weapons or technology. It's about knowing when to fight and when to show mercy. Admiral Wu Jin retired, his duty done. He spent his remaining years teaching at the new Galactic Military Academy, where humans and 17 other species learn together. The galaxy is changing, he told his students. Make sure you change it for the better. Engineer destroyed the virus weapon, along with all the research. Some weapons are too terrible to exist, he said. We were willing to use it, but that doesn't mean we should keep it. General Song became the first human ambassador to the. It was strange, living among former enemies. But slowly, carefully, they built something new. Understanding, friendship, hope. 5 years after the war ended, Captain Yang walked through a rebuilt colony with his young daughter. She was playing with a child, laughing as they chased each other through the gardens. Former enemies, now friends. Dad, his daughter asked, is it true you fought in the war? Yes, Yang said. Did you kill bad guys? He was quiet for a moment. I fought people who were trying to hurt us, but they weren't all bad. They were just wrong and scared, and too used to getting their own way. But you won, right? We survived, Yang said. And then we did something harder than winning. We chose to be kind when we could have been cruel. We chose to build instead of destroy. That's the real victory. His daughter thought about that, then went back to playing. Yang watched her and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Real peace. The galaxy had learned something from humanity. That technological advancement wasn't enough. That power without wisdom was meaningless. That mercy was stronger than vengeance. And humanity had learned something too. That survival wasn't just about being stubborn or tough. It was about knowing who you were, what you stood for, and having the courage to be better than your enemies expected. They had been the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, but they pushed humanity too far, and in doing so, they learned what true strength looked like. Not in ships or weapons, but in the will to survive and the wisdom to know when the fight was over. And in the end, both species were stronger for it.